Live from Rialto, California, Mark Flores presents Retro Collecting 101 with 5 things you'll need to be a well-versed retro collector. Hey guys, thank you for tuning in to another great episode of Retro Collecting 101. I'm your host, Mark Flores. Tonight's topic, it's been something that's been on my mind for a long time. With retro collecting, there's a lot of things that I actually recommend to people, and what I wanted to do was actually do this podcast for the sake of this topic. 3 things you must have to make yourself a well-rounded collector. This goes without saying. There's a lot of things that people need as far as what will make them a lot better at doing stuff. I mean, take it for instance, a basketball athlete. He'll need the right course of training. He or she will need the right course of training. They'll also need proper nutrition, etc., etc. They need to do things to be better at whatever they want to excel in. For in the case of retro collectors, there's 3 things you must have to make yourself a more effective collector. Anyway, guys, this Retro Collecting 101 podcast is brought to you by my proud sponsors, Game Swappers. Game Swappers, buy, sell, and trade your retro games and next-gen consoles. That's Xbox One and PlayStation 4. You can come into contact with Game Swappers via Instagram at GAMESWAPPERS. That's GAMESWAPPERS. Game Swappers, buy, sell, and trade. Keep in mind, guys, that if you do share any which one of my podcasts, whether it's Retro Collecting 101, the pay-per-review wrestling podcast, if you didn't tune in right now, I actually did an NXT The End review based on their actual TakeOver pay-per-view match that NXT did this Wednesday. So if you want, take a look at that. And not to mention tonight's Mark and Andre podcast that's happening live at 9 o'clock. So I'm working overtime here, Top Gun style, baby. Whether you share any 3 of those podcasts, there's oodles of discounts for you. You'll get 10% off towards whatever retro games you want to buy, and you'll get 10% more towards your retro game trade-ins. That's say if you actually have some like a Super Nintendo you want to trade in, simply share my podcast via Instagram or Facebook. Show whoever's on staff at Game Swappers the share, and boom, you get 10% off. Anyway, I want to get down to the nitty-gritty here, and I want to go into the topic of 3 things you must have to make yourself a well-rounded collector. Number 1, you need to have means of research. You need to have anything that gives you the advantage of looking up the average price for games. That way you know what you'll expect to pay at actual retro game stores, or you'll see how much of a steal you're getting by finding it at a thrift store. Being well educated in what you're collecting will also mean that you'll pick up things at a steal that the uneducated have left behind. A lot of things to mention is accessories, cable cords can come in handy when it comes to this. A lot of accessories now, a lot of like Nintendo accessories and Super Nintendo accessories are being missed by the game collector that goes to thrift stores. They simply don't see it. And when they don't see it, that's when you, being well-versed and educated as far as your research goes, comes in and reaps the benefits. The research will help you when you least expect it. You may be helping out someone who's going to make a mistake with a trade, sale, or purchase when you know otherwise. It'll help you and your fellow hobbyists when you actually go hunting or thrifting to communicate what you know. If you communicate what you know, you'll prevent so many things from happening. You'll help someone save money. You'll help yourself save money because you actually know what you're doing. So the means of research, find a way to look up the average price. Have Google voice search ready to like look up a game or to look up problems that you have, like a question like, is the Xbox 360 compatible? Or is settings, just the etc. of questions that you might have to actually solve the predicament that you're in. Rule number 2, preparedness for maintenance and refurbishment. Whether it's refurbishment or maintenance of a console, game, controller, what have you, having the right tools for the job is a must. You never see a mechanic with a scalpel, or you never see a doctor using wire cutters during a surgery. With the right tools, you'll reduce the risk of damage to whatever you're fixing, cleaning, whatever, if you have the right tools on hand. To reduce the risk is the main thing. You have to have the right tools for the job to prevent something from happening. Nintendo bit drivers and various tools to open games or for opening consoles are very inexpensive. You only need to buy one set of everything since you won't be overworking the tools themselves. These cartridges don't need high amounts of torque. You don't need to have any power plug attached to any of the drills or bit drivers that you're using. Just a standard, little tool, little bit driver with the tool, with the actual grip attachment to it. Should be fine. To be honest, it should be fine. That's what I have. So, and to clean things also, you don't need to go on the expensive route for Q-tips, or you don't need to waste money on paper towels either. So what you could do is this. So to avoid the paper towel mess up, you can have one microfiber cloth. Two, if you want to do it like this, you'll use the first microfiber cloth to lay on the actual table, and then you'll use the second one to clean off anything that you see is unfit. I use the microfiber cloth on the bottom just to catch all the little screws and stuff so I don't miss them slipping under my desk or any etc. But with Q-tips, you don't need to buy the expensive Q-tips to actually clean out your cartridges. A pack of 1,000 Q-tips from the dollar store should have you go a long way. The Q-tips that I have lasted me 3 years, and I'm barely almost a quarter of the way towards the bag at the end. So there's actually about probably 250 to 300 Q-tips. So it's something that you'll need. If you're collecting retro games and you want to play them, or if you want to keep them nice, you're gonna need, if you want to swap labels out, swap the back housing out to make it look a lot better. You're gonna need the Nintendo bit drivers, and then you're gonna need a microfiber cloth. And to clean it, to actually make it play, you're going to need Q-tips. Those are the things you'll need. You'll need the right tools for the job. I cannot say it enough. In the field that I'm in, outside of doing the podcast shows, if I'm using the wrong tool for the job, I'm making myself work 10 times harder. It's easier to use the tools the first time, the right time, and that's all you need. This skill to actually do these things, whether it's opening games, opening consoles, is easy to learn. So do not waste money on having someone else do it for you for the fee if they charge for it. 80% of video game maintenance is easy for novice collectors. I'm telling you, it's so easy. I thought I was going to have a bad time doing it, but it's easy. The remainder of that, out of the 80%, the 20% is actually exclusive to people who actually know how to work the actual boards in the consoles and games. If you teach your fellow collector the skills it'll benefit him in the long run. Wow, please forgive the ice cream man. He or she is really killing this right now. I should actually go outside with my microphone and be like, you know what? Let me get a fudge bar and then let me have you tone the volume down. How much is that going to cost for this podcast? Jeez. Anyway, I'm sorry to be distracted by that, but you're really going to be able to hear the ice cream truck going through. But anyway, back to my point is that what remains out of the 80% is exclusive to people that actually know how to work the boards and consoles and games, the circuit boards and what have you. But if you teach your fellow collector the skills it'll benefit him or her in the long run. The actual term goes, if you feed someone a fish, they'll eat for a day, but if you actually teach them how to fish, they eat for a lifetime. That goes true with maintaining cartridges in the same sense that if you want someone to do something for you, you're going to get charged a fee to do it. But if you have the tools and you do it yourself, you'll be able to do it for the remainder of your life. And that way you don't have to pay for it. Number 3, organization. This is the last little tidbit I have for you guys as a suggestion. Remember, nothing I say as far as retro collecting or anything is gospel in terms of that, but from what I could tell you is this. Keeping your tools, your game library, and your accessories organized will help you avoid meaningless purchases. Purchasing doubles of games or duplicates of things you already have wastes money towards the things you really need. There's been times where I've actually bought doubles of things that I've already had, and I was asked out, and I had to, sell it for store credit because I didn't want to sell it online because of the little bit of margin I would get by selling it online. But keeping everything organized will help you avoid stress. It'll help you avoid unwanted purchases. It's just you're going to be wasting money in the long run. So if you keep everything organized, nice and neat, you'll be able to have a lot more effective mentality to make sure that you actually use that same mentality that you need towards retro collecting, retro hunting, what have you. There's several retro game applications for Android or iOS that will actually give you the opportunity to let you know what you already have. There's NES inventories, SNES inventories. Some do all the libraries of all the games. So it'd be best for you to actually have that on hand to actually make sure you prevent yourself from doing a double purchase. So you'll feel a lot better knowing you took the time to putting your games organized, to putting your games in an inventory application. Being organized is key to being a successful collector, in my opinion. I mean, with the if you guys have seen my background photos, my cartridges are kept in somewhat of an order. The main ones that I play are in the front. The main ones, the ones I don't play are in the back because I don't want to have access to the ones I don't play. It just doesn't make sense. But to make a long story short is that everything's somewhat organized. I don't have all these fucking cartridges like laying around everywhere. It's about being organized, in my opinion, to getting yourself to be a well-rounded collector. And those are the 3 tidbits I have. I wanted to keep this podcast relatively short for the time being, simply because I just wanted to. But anyway, that's the few tidbits I have for you guys. Anyway, I want to let you guys know is that this episode of Retro Collecting 101 has been brought to you by Game Swappers. Game Swappers, buy, sell, and trade your retro games and next-gen consoles. That's PS4 and Xbox One. You can come into contact with Game Swappers via Instagram at GAMESWAPPERS. That's GAMESWAPPERS. Game Swappers, buy, sell, and trade. Keep in mind, guys, that if you do share Retro Collecting 101, the Mark and Andre Show, one of the hottest current event podcast shows on Spreaker.com, or if you follow the Pay-Per-Review Wrestling Podcast, if you share it, you'll be able to get a discount towards Game Swappers. 10% off. Or 10% more towards your trade-in. Doesn't matter. Just, it helps us all out. It helps me out with getting more ears to the podcast. It helps you out with getting a discount, and it helps Game Swappers out with the advertisement. They are my proud sponsors, and there's nothing I would have, I wouldn't strive for anything less than being successful at this, So I wanted to let you guys know is that there's going to be a more serious approach in the times and weeks to come as far as the podcasts. I've been falling off especially with the Retro Collecting 101 podcast, but I want to get back on the grind with it. I've been focused more on the previous 2 podcasts that I've kind of strayed away from this one, but I do love giving out information about, stuff I know, whether it's retro gaming, wrestling, current events. It's so important to me, and that's why I have these podcasts, because I like making sure that you guys are as well informed as I am. It just takes one to actually share it, and if all the listeners that actually did share it, I would definitely appreciate it, and there's incentives for you actually sharing it. But anyway, that has been Retro Collecting 101. You guys have a good night. Please stay tuned tonight. Today is actually Friday, the 10th of June, 2016. So be sure at 9 o'clock to tune into the Mark and Andre Show. We're going to have quite a few topics. I'm going to keep them close to the chest simply, so it'll make you tune in later tonight at 9 o'clock. Farewell, guys. You guys have a good night. Thank you.